My name is 환산스님, and this is Sun Meditation in English. The purpose of this program is to share with you the Sun or Korean Zen Buddhist teachings of my teacher, Sun Master Songdam. Sun Master Songdam is the most respected spiritual master in Korean Buddhism today. Thank you all for coming. Now, Sun Master Songdam primarily teaches the formal techniques of traditional Sun Buddhist meditation. So for you viewers at home, this is a participatory program. And if you want to follow along, the first thing that you need to do is to prepare a meditation mat. Now, if you don't own a meditation mat, then what you can do is take a blanket and fold it into a large square. And you'll want to be sitting on that blanket, that makeshift meditation mat, as you watch this program, and then you can follow along. So in that way, we'll be able to learn meditation together. Now, before we get to the actual method of meditation, I think what we as beginning meditators need to understand first is how an ancient method of Buddhist meditation can help modern people like us living in modern society. So now that's actually one of the very first things that Sun Master Songdam taught me. Many years ago, when I was first starting out as a Sinim, or Korean Buddhist monk, one day he said to me, you know, modern society and the modern educational system are really an amazing thing. You can learn almost anything that you want. If you want to know about the stars and the universe, you can study astronomy and physics. If you want to learn how to build a building or a bridge or a machine, then you can learn engineering and architecture and design. In order to make a living, you can study economics or law or medicine. And if you have a personal interest, you can study history or even other cultures. But there is one thing that no one teaches, and it's very strange because this one thing is fundamentally and directly connected to the quality of our lives as individuals and the well-being of our society as a whole. This one thing is immensely important, and yet no school, no company or corporation, no nonprofit organization, no research institute or hospital teaches this. So what is this one thing? This one thing, according to Sun Master Songdam, is the answer to the question, what do I do when I get upset? When I'm angry or afraid or heartbroken, is there a universally applicable system for dealing with mental distress? Now, from the time that we're very young, we learn a variety of skills and techniques for living in this world. For example, when we're children, we learn how to dress ourselves and tie our shoelaces and cross the street. Later, we learn how to go to school and do our homework and take tests. We learn how to set goals and undertake the necessary long-term effort for achieving them. And we also learn the customs for dealing with people in an appropriate way. So hopefully by the time we become adults, we can know how to live our lives in a productive and independent way. And yet, in all of this education, we are never taught a concrete, specific way for dealing with being upset. Now, there is a procedure for almost everything else. If my car breaks down, I take it to a repair shop, or I call a tow truck. If my body gets sick, I go to a doctor or a hospital. If I have a legal problem, I go to a lawyer. But when I'm angry or afraid or anxious or depressed, suddenly I don't know what to do. Now, according to Sun Master Songdam and the Sun Buddhism tradition as a whole, sun meditation is the most appropriate and effective way for dealing with inner suffering. Sun meditation is a systematic procedure, technique, and life skill for dealing with unhappiness. So on the day that Sun Master Songdam talked about this with me, he kind of smiled at me and he said, you know, out there, you can learn anything you want. But if you want to overcome your personal unhappiness and make your inner pain disappear, then you have to go to a Sun Buddhist meditation monastery. Well, that was more than 20 years ago. And now, through this program, the hope is that the Sun Meditation Monastery can now come to you, can now come to us. So again, the claim is Sun meditation is the most appropriate and most effective way to deal with inner suffering. What does that mean in concrete, specific terms? Let's take an example. Let's say that someone very dear to you says something very hurtful to you. So you're crushed. Your head throbs, your chest hurts, your thoughts and emotions are spinning. You don't know whether to cry or curse at them. You don't know whether to stand and fight or walk away. So what do? Specifically in that moment of great anguish and disorientation? Well, what you don't want to do is try to talk yourself out of being upset. You do not want to try to start a conversation with your own heartbroken self. You don't want to be talking in your head to yourself, saying things like, oh, you know, he didn't mean that, or, you know, she doesn't know what she's saying. This is considered unhelpful. Why? Because when you try to engage yourself in an internal dialogue, what you're really trying to do is set one set of thoughts against another set of thoughts. That's like pitting one set of muscles against another set of muscles. That's like having your left arm take on your right arm in an arm wrestling match. All you do is generate internal conflict and use up a lot of energy. So then, what should you do? The thing that we have to understand is that being upset is like having a bomb explode. It's already too late to defuse the bomb. It's already too late to persuade yourself not to be upset. You are already upset. What does that mean? Your mind and body are already in a state of explosive disarray. So, what do? According to Sun Master Songdam and the Sun Buddhist meditation tradition, what you do is go to the body. Direct your attention to your physical posture. That is the first component of sun meditation. Now, before we get into the actual details of how to perform sun meditation, let's examine that for a second. Why go to the body when it's actually your heart and your mind that's in a state of disorientation and disarray? The reason why is because the mind and the body exist in an extremely close, mutually influential relationship. What does that mean? It means that our thoughts and our feelings are reflected and expressed in our body, in our facial expressions, in the way we hold our body, in the state of our body inside, and in our posture. So when you look at someone, their face, their body, how they're carrying themselves, you get a pretty good idea of what they're thinking and feeling. And this is what we call body language. Now, what's important here and useful here for beginning meditators like us is that the line of influence also goes in the other direction. What that means is, if I hold my body in a balanced, centered, stable way, that will have a balancing, centering, and stabilizing effect on my mental equilibrium. So when I'm upset or I feel that I'm beginning to become upset, direct your attention to your posture, specifically the line that runs from the crown of the head all the way down to the tailbone. You want that line to be nice and long and straight and very well-rooted and stable. So if you happen to be standing, then you want to be standing in a stable, balanced way, not leaning to the left and not leaning to the right, not leaning forward, not leaning backward, with minimal tension in your body. Now, if you're able to sit, then definitely you want to sit. You want to be able to sit in the seated meditation posture, because that posture is considered the most effective in establishing our mental equilibrium. And so now this brings us to the actual method of how to meditate. And what I'd like to do now, before we get into that method, is take a short break, and our studio audience members can stretch their legs. And when we come back, we will now engage the specific procedure of how to perform sun meditation. Okay, we're back, and we will now begin to learn the step-by-step procedure for performing sun meditation. The first component of sun meditation is proper posture. So proper posture in the seated position means that you take the heel of one foot and place it in, and then you take the other foot and place it on the opposite lap. Now, if that's too difficult, you can place it on the opposite calf. And if that's too difficult, you can simply place it on the floor in front of you. The point here is to create a nice wide triangular base at the bottom of your body, a stable foundation to hold you upright. There's a nice large triangle created between the points of your tailbone and your two knees. Okay, from here you want to straighten your back. So straighten your back. And take your right hand and then place it against your lower abdomen. And then just let your hand rest. Place your left hand on top of your right hand and let your thumbs touch one another in a nice, elegant rainbow arc. Okay, so you want to hold your hands like this. All right, now take your shoulders, raise them up to your ears, roll, and then drop. Okay, take your chin and tuck it in slightly. Okay, tuck your chin in slightly, and you want to keep your eyes open and looking straight forward. But because your chin is tucked in, your gaze will naturally fall on the floor about 3 meters or 10 feet in front of you. You want to just keep your eyes open as they naturally are, and you do not want to stare at any given point or object or pattern in the floor. Just you want to look forward with a nice soft gaze and let your field of vision present itself to you. Now you want to take your tongue and place it against the against the roof of your mouth, just behind the upper row of your teeth. You don't have to press too hard. So that's proper posture. Next, we engage proper breathing. And in proper breathing, we begin with preparation breathing. The way we do preparation breathing is we breathe in through the nose very deeply, hold, and then breathe out through the mouth. So why don't we try that 3 times? Breathe in. Hold, breathe out. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Once again, breathe in, hold, and then breathe out. This has a revitalizing effect on our minds and bodies. After preparation breathing, we engaged what we call abdominal breathing. In abdominal breathing, which is the main form of breathing in meditation, what we'll be doing is we'll be breathing completely through the nose now. And when we breathe in, as we breathe in, and we'll breathe in slowly and gently and naturally, as we breathe in, we push out our lower belly slightly, as if there's a balloon in our gut. and the air is going into that balloon, making the balloon expand and forcing your belly forward. So you breathe in and push out your belly, then hold for 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then exhale through your nose and let your belly subside. So why don't we try that? Inhale, hold, then exhale. Once again, inhale, hold, and then exhale. When you inhale, it should take about 2 to 3 seconds. Then when you pause, you should pause for 2 to 3 seconds. And you want your exhalation to be a little longer. So when you exhale through your nose, you're going to exhale for 3 to 4 seconds. Okay? Now that might be too long. That's a breath cycle of roughly 10 seconds. That might be too long. You can shorten the breath cycle to match your own metabolism. Just know that the inhalation and the pause should be roughly the same length, and your exhalation should be a little longer. So that's the abdominal breathing which we use in meditation. And that is the second component of sun meditation. So we have posture as the first component, correct breathing as the second component. The third component is the most important. This is the heart of sun meditation practice. And the third component is correct thought. What do we think of as we hold our bodies in correct posture and breathe through abdominal breathing? And in sun meditation, the thought that we'll be focusing on, what we'll be thinking, is a very special kind of question called a hwadu. It's also called 공안. Now, some of our viewers may be more familiar with the Japanese pronunciation of 공안, which is koan. And what that basically means is you're going to ask yourself a very special question. And you're going to ask yourself this question in the most sincere, urgent, and earnest way possible. Now, the hwadu that Sun Master Songdam teaches is called I Mot Go in Korean. I Mot Go. That means, what is this? What is this that directs my body? When someone calls my name, what is it within me that responds to that name? When I feel anger, what is it in me that's feeling the anger? When I feel sadness, what is it in me that's suffering the sadness? When I feel joy, what is in me that feels happy? The important thing is the question. And the important thing is not to try to answer the question. Now, I know that sounds paradoxical. Why ask a question if you're not going to try to answer it? The reason why we don't try to answer it is because when we try to answer what is this thing that I call I, all we're really doing is putting a label on it. We're just creating a name. The soul, the self, the mind, Buddha nature, the true self. Putting a name on something doesn't mean that you actually see and experience what it is. This is the central point of Sun Buddhist teaching, that what we truly are cannot be known through our thinking brains. It must be enlightened to. We must have a spiritual awakening, and in that moment, we will know what we truly are and what this world truly is. Not knowing these central facts of our own existence, what we are and where we are, is considered the source of all suffering. It causes all the confusion and the disorientation that in turn produces negative emotions. So we will be asking ourselves this question: what is this? What is this that occupies my body? What is this that is aware of things? Now, we're going to ask this question in a structured, technical way, which means we're going to coordinate asking this question with our breathing. Now, past experience in teaching this form of meditation to an international audience has shown me that it's best to just do the question in Korean, even if Korean is not your native language. So we'll be learning this form of meditation exactly the same way that native Korean Buddhists do. So how do we do that? Once again, we engage correct posture. Put your hands together. And correct breathing, abdominal breathing. Now, as we do the abdominal breathing, we breathe in, hold, and then as we breathe out, in our minds, we think, I, mo, go. And we take that last syllable, go, and stretch it for the length of the exhalation. Okay? So let me spell that out for you. I, that's Y-I, and that means this. What? That's M-W-O-T, and that means what? And then go, G-O. So the literal translation would be this, what is? This, what is this? This, what is this? So with our breathing, breathe in, hold, and then as we exhale, I, mo, go. Okay, so why don't we try that all together? And just for to learn how to do it, why don't we actually say it out loud? Okay, so all together now, breathe in, hold, and then as we breathe out together, I, mo, go. Again, breathe in, hold, and then breathe out, I, mo, go. When I first learned this hwadu, as a Korean American born and raised in the United States, I learned Korean after becoming an adult, and Korean was my second language. So I was taught I, mo, go before I could speak Korean. But I found that if you practice it enough, you begin to feel it. That's always, in anything, the important thing is to practice. Practice until you become an expert. Meditation is no different. So even for international practitioners, even though it may feel unfamiliar, I, Y-I, Mwot, M-W-O-T, Go, G-O, if you just keep practicing with tuning it to your breathing, I, mo, go. So breathe in. I, mo, go. Eventually, it becomes part of your metabolism. What does that mean? Eventually, it becomes connected to your breathing. So when you breathe in, hold, and breathe out, it feels as if the phrase I, mo, go is coming out of your stomach with your breathing. And it becomes part of it becomes a very natural part of your physical activity. And the question begins to take root literally within our bodies and within our minds. So that's the procedure for holding the I, mo, go, hwadu. But what does that all mean? Why are we doing this? And the meaning of it is not in the simple mindless repetition of those 3 Korean syllables. The meaning, the intent, the purpose of meditation is to use that question to create in our minds what Sun Buddhists call a state of doubt. Now, doubt here is not skepticism. It's not like, well, is there really something like enlightenment? You know, is this or that master really enlightened? You know, do we really get reborn after we die? It's not, as I said, it's not a nervous questioning. It is an urgent, sincere, unstoppable desire to know, and yet we cannot know. You try to see, but you can't see. So the Sun Buddhists say that you are blocked. Now, Sun Master Songdam explains this in a very simple way. What it feels like, what it should feel like in meditation is as if you've lost your keys. Imagine that you've lost your keys. You put it away somewhere last night, you wake up the next morning and you just can't remember. So you go to your desk, you open your drawers, key's not there. You go through your pockets, key's not there. You go all around the house, it's not in any of the rooms. You go to the car, It's not in the car. You ask everyone you know, everyone who could possibly have that key. No one has the key. It's gone. So now there's nothing more that you can think of to do. And so you just sit there and you think, where is the key? No matter how you think, you can't think of where it is. You know that you know, but you don't remember. You know that you don't, you know that you know, but you don't know. You're blocked. In the case of 이 모고, the key that you've lost is yourself. You are you, and yet you don't know what you are. And so you ask yourself, what am I? What is this? The doubt is natural. We can get upset about losing a key, and yet somehow we're not upset about having lost ourselves because we've gotten so used to not knowing what we are. We've gotten so used to equating ourselves with our bodies and the speech that comes from our bodies and the actions that our bodies undertake. And we've completely forgotten what it is within our bodies that moves us, what it is that's generating those thoughts and feeling those feelings. To go back to the metaphor of the key, we've gotten to a point where we've just simply gotten used to not knowing where the key is, and we just forget even to look for it. But ourselves are not a physical object. It's not a key, and so we're always a little bit haunted by it. And we feel this quality of being haunted in feelings of emptiness and doubt and confusion about how to live our lives. So as structured and procedural as this meditation method may seem, it actually points to and deals with the most fundamental, the defining issue of our lives, of the quality of our lives, this living without knowing where or what we are. When you're asking yourself this question, you're not mindlessly following a mechanical procedure. You are simply directing your attention to something that's already within us. This doubt is already within us. We use the posture and the breathing to focus our scattered attention back upon it and get back on track to dealing what's really important in our lives. Not how much money we have, or how many friends we have, or how many material possessions we have. All those things are important. I will not argue here that those things are not important, but they are of secondary importance in the long run. In the long run, it's hard to live without knowing what we are and where we are and why we do the things we do. And sun meditation directly addresses that issue. And in the course of it, because we're doing this very healthy posture and this very vitalizing form of breathing, the suffering that we undergo in our negative emotional states and sometimes in our negative physical states are addressed as a natural side effect. When we engage the doubt, first of all, we're naturally directing our attention from the turmoil that's going on in the movie screen in our heads and directing our attention back to the source of its own awareness. So that's the first thing that it does. The second thing that it does, and this is something that we have to know through experience. This has to be confirmed through actual meditative experience. When you learn how to hold the hwadu, that's what it's called. When you direct your attention to the hwadu, it's called holding the hwadu. And when you learn how to hold the hwadu, you find that it has a cleansing effect, a revitalizing effect, and a healing effect. It tends to dissolve our negative thoughts and emotions. It tends to clarify our minds, cleanse our minds, and stabilize our minds. Those who practice it know, even if you're not enlightened, even if you're not someone famous or someone celebrated within the world of Buddhism, if you just try it for a little while, you will even find that it seems to affect us on a non-conscious level. It seems to burn away emotions that we're not even aware that we're carrying. In modern psychology, we call these unconscious emotions or unconscious tendency. In the old Buddhist terminology, they were called karma. But one way or the other, through a habitual practice of meditation, we find ourselves feeling lighter somehow, both physically and emotionally. We find ourselves feeling joy more often than sadness. We find ourselves calm most of the time, and not a dead kind of calm, but a very vital, alive, bright feeling of wellness and true inner health. This is not the target of meditation, it just happens naturally in the course of meditation. So why don't we try this for ourselves? Why don't we try a brief meditative session of sun meditation using the 이목고 화두? Okay? So please assume the meditative posture, and I will take this so-called jukbi. I call it a bamboo clapper in English. It is a Buddhist instrument used in directing meditation sessions. And when I strike this 3 times, it initiates the meditative session. And then later when I strike it 3 times again, it concludes the session. Okay? So I will strike the jukbi 3 times, and we will try the 이목고 화두 in sun meditation together. Oh, and as we meditate, I'll walk around a little just to make sure that your postures are okay. Okay? We will now enter meditation. Then after meditation, rub your hands together. And when your hands become warm, you can place it over your eyes. Now, the most important aspect of meditation in terms of where we direct our attention, because we have so many things that we're paying attention to as beginning meditators, where our hands are, where our feet are, and there's also the physical discomfort. But at all times, you want to be directing your attention at your lower abdomen. You always want, and what that means is you want to always feel, be aware of the feeling of your lower abdomen moving back and forth in the motion of abdominal breathing. And as you think, even though you're thinking 이목고, you want to be feeling that 이목고 within the pit of your belly. Now that sounds strange if you haven't tried meditation. These things only make sense in the context of actual practice. If you just try to sit there without doing any meditation at all and say, well, what does that mean, feeling imoko in the pit of your belly? You're not going to be able to figure it out intellectually. This is a tradition of practice, application, and confirmation in the experience through one's own mind and body. So this is very important to understand, that none of this stuff can be understood in an intellectual way. We have to make the journey ourselves. Okay? And in the course of that, we will find that the mental distress or the inner suffering that I alluded to at the beginning of today's program, we will find that those things start to dissolve. And oddly enough, that being upset somehow doesn't upset us that much anymore. We can accept it as a natural part of living. And through that acceptance, we begin to know greater and greater levels of inner peace and inner lucidity and stability and clarity and so forth. Now, but as we close today's program, what I would like to stress, though, is that we must remember that the ultimate purpose of sun meditation is and always must be enlightenment. The psychotherapeutic benefits, the health benefits, the healing benefits, they are wonderful. No one is arguing with that. But we cannot make them the ultimate goal of our practice. Why? No matter how mentally or physically healthy we may become, these bodies of ours must age, they must become ill, and one day they must die. No amount of health can prevent that. Only enlightenment can free us from the fear of death and open our eyes to a higher reality. So at the beginning of this program, I did say that sun meditation is a systematic procedure, technique, and life skill for dealing with unhappiness. And it is that, but it's much, much more. It is a life path, a fundamental spiritual practice whose goal is to transcend all human suffering and gain ultimate wisdom and compassion. Now that's something that we will continue to explore in the future. But for today, we've run out of time, so we will now close. And we will close as we always do with an extended session of meditation. And through this meditation, we can once again practice what we've learned here together today. Okay? So in advance, I will say thank you for watching, and thank you all for attending. And definitely, let's see each other again in our next episode. Thank you once again. May we all attain the Buddha. Okay. Then for our closing meditation, then please once again assume the meditative posture. And we will enter meditation together.